This is going to be a look at some of the Ravens' coverages, how I believe they were able to slow down Joe Burrow and the Bengals once again. I know that Joe Burrow's injury to his ankle had an impact. There's no doubt. He did show some agility early in the third quarter, and I'll show that play when he escaped a potential sack by Justin Madubuike. But here's some of the precepts that I think the Ravens bring to the table for 4 straight games. If you're not going to pressure the quarterback physically, which we have done at times, particularly last year in the Week 5 game at home, and then at times in the wild card game as well. But they did not on Sunday in terms of quarterback pressures, quarterback hits, sacking Joe Burrow. They didn't do that consistently, but they're applying another type of pressure. I thought one of the announcers, either Matt Ryan or Tiki Barber, mentioned it. Mike Macdonald's quote supposedly was something about, we want to make him process things pre-snap and post-snap to apply as much pressure to mental pressure to Joe Burrow as possible. It's a different type of pressure, a different type of approach. It works. 860 yards passing in 4 games against Mike Macdonald. It works. I want to mention some of the foundational elements before we get to the film, which is all going to be comprised of film from Sunday. Physical versus the spread. The Bengals are a true spread team. They have a spread mentality. There's not a real physical component to their offense. There could be. They have the potential for it. When they run Joe Mixon downhill, particularly on some of the same side runs they showed in the third quarter, that element is there, if you ask me. So I think they can certainly improve on their offense, and I think they will, just like they did last year after struggling offensively for the first 2 games when they saw a lot of Tampa 2. What else do you have to do? Well, you have to be sound in coverage, but also be multiple. Give Joe Burrow multiple looks, since you're not going to theoretically pressure him, and we did not, as we established. Ravens played in these clips you'll see some cover 3, some split field quarters coverages. Some people call it match. It's the same thing. Some funnel 2, and when I say that, what I'm talking about is 2 deep, 4 under coverages that Mike Macdonald showed at Michigan 2 years ago, and I didn't see the Ravens play a lot in 2022. I didn't see a lot of man free by the Ravens until down near closer to the goal line. That doesn't mean it didn't happen at all between the 20s. I just didn't notice it as much as I noticed some of those other things that I've mentioned. A couple of things, the impact I think it's had on Burrow. And again, his injury, I think, may have exacerbated these things on Sunday. He attacked to the boundary a lot. Now, that may sound like a positive. It's away from the nickel defender. After watching the film tonight, and I was going to push this video off until Tuesday, but I wanted to get it done, he appears uncomfortable attacking to the field where the nickel is unless it's up the sidelines. Now, so there's a 3rd and 2 on, I think, the first possession of the third quarter where he hits T. Higgins on like a little curl or hook route. Kyle Hamilton kind of overreacts to the number 3 receiver. Ardarius Washington falls down. Joe Burrow takes advantage. So good on him. But he seems to me to want to stay on track with the down and distance, which is a smart decision. And therefore, I think he is attacking to the boundary to create 2nd and 6 and 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 10 if he goes to the field somewhere. There weren't a lot of throws to the field between the hash and the bottom of the numbers. The throws to the field were outside the bottom of the numbers, near the sideline, or in the flats, late. You have to tackle well, and the Ravens did that, I think, in spades for the most part. You can't overreact to things, and the Ravens did that on a couple of occasions. The 31-yard catch to out in the flats to Joe Mixon on a designed play, early third quarter. Kyle Hamilton overreacts and gets sucked inside, gets out of position. And finally, you have to cover man at some point in time, which the Ravens did on a few occasions on Sunday. You're going to hear me flipping through some papers so I can track these plays, so forgive me for that. First possession, we'll go through all 3 plays, I'm sorry. So 1st and 10. This is 2nd and 14, my apologies. This is going to be complete to Boyd up top. The Ravens drop Clowney to the boundary a lot. So when the ball's on the hash and Clowney is into the boundary like this, they were dropping him out a lot. I think it was Stacey Van Diver in our Discord mentioned that a couple of times, and he was correct. Additionally, you have to hit, you have to tackle. Again, I don't think there's a real physical element to this Bengals offense the way that they have played so far in 2023. The Ravens have brought that physical element. This is now the third game in a row, maybe the fourth, where I think the Ravens have brought that physical element more so than the Bengals offense did. This is just an example. This is a cover three, if you ask me. Ravens are playing man on the backside. You see you got a man turn here. You got a zone turn there because that's to the trips. That's where the zone side is. Curl flat. Hook to curl on the hash. He's dropping down, so that's why he's deeper. Hook to curl queen. Curl flat down into the boundary, and then middle of the field free safety there from the backside. It looks like cover three to me. Big hit by Geno Stone to hold him to a 6-yard gain. Very next play, 3rd and 8. It's a mug look by the Ravens. Just played a version of cover three, if you ask me, and now they've got this 2 deep, 4 under look. This is a very well thrown ball to Irv Smith. Burrow appears really comfortable throwing down the sideline. He has to do that, I think, more the next time the Ravens play him. But look at the read that he's got here. Darby, eyes on him, inside leverage. Smith is going to get outside, throw it over the top of the corner in the cover 2, outside the safety. Ardarius is unable to get there. Guy gets 1 foot in, but not the second one. Still a very well thrown ball. I'm not sure from a Ravens perspective, I really like Blitzen Hamilton up here. I think he kind of folds inside, becomes inconsequential. The 2 deep, 4 under is somewhat of an anomaly. You're normally talking about 2 deep, 5 under. The Ravens wanted to bring extra pressure, but sometimes defensive coordinators do stuff like this early to kind of plant that seed in the quarterback's mind that they are there to pressure. So even though it's a nice throw, very well could have been a first down. There might be a reason for why the Ravens did it, even though I'm not a huge fan of Blitzen Hamilton. 1st and 10, second possession. Part of dealing with this Bengals offense is you got to be able to stop the run from your nickel defense look. And in this case, Travis Jones wins versus, I think, the right guard. I think it's Kappa. So from this platform, this too-high platform, for the most part, the Ravens were able to stop the run. But 15 carries, 66 yards overall by the Bengals. They were able to get the run game going somewhat in the third quarter. First 2 or 3 possessions, not so much. Sets up a 2nd and 9 from midfield. This might be the scariest and craziest call from the whole game for me as a Ravens fan. 2nd and 9, Bengals go empty, and the Ravens have got 3 over 2 to the 2 receiver side. We've got 3 over 3, but presumably, someone is going to drop out to create 4 over 3 to that 3 receiver side. You talk about nuts. The Ravens are going to blitz off Jamar Chase with Patrick Queen to create a 2-on-2 up there to the boundary on this little bubble screen. And Geno Stone, the guy played amazing, not just the interception, coming downhill, tackling, hitting people, covering tight end well on a 3rd and 2 that the Bengals converted. Love his angle, and then look at the hustle by Queen. Queen blitzes, gets in towards the interior of the line. The screen is thrown, and he doubles back on his path to get back out to Chase and lay a shot on him. There's no gain on this play. The speed that the Ravens played at on Sunday, I think, caught the Bengals by surprise. It's a too-high look on that 2nd and 9, creates a 3rd and 9. Queen and Roquan kind of walked up in here. You can see we've got 3 DBs to the trip side again. Queen's going to have an amazing tackle here on this 3rd down. Check down to the running back late. I didn't see a lot of throws. If you're a Bengals fan and you've listened this long, first of all, thank you. Second of all, tell me the throws that there were to the field where the nickel defender was, between this area. I mentioned the one to Higgins on the 3rd and 2, and I think I'll show that one a little bit later. It seemed to me that his throws were to the boundary along a wider swath of the field. But to the field side, it seemed like it was bottom of the numbers to the sideline and a couple of throws in the middle of the field, but not much. I feel like there's an area that was a no-go for Burrow, and I'm not sure why. I'm not smart enough to be able to quantify it. It's a generalized observation after watching every offensive snap late here Monday night. I thought I was done making videos, but this one was just interesting to me. The lack of throws in a certain area of the field, I think, is due to the Ravens' use of so many different types of coverages, and Burrow doesn't want to make a mistake, number one. And number two, I think he wants to stay on track in terms of down and distance and keep the Bengals in that 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. All right, third possession, a lot of plays from here. You're going to get a too-high look. Boyd is going to be open. He's going to come over here to the trip side. He's going to be open on like a little curl. Ball hits Brent Urban in the head, so it goes down as a pass defense for him. One thing to note, and this is kind of referencing or I guess foreshadowing the interception by Stone later on, this is the third time I've seen the Ravens do this to trips, and it's not unusual. This isn't a rare thing. And what I'm talking about is to trips, the backside safety is focusing on the trip side. So whatever he gets from the trip side could be 3 vertical, could be 3 on an end, kind of like you get here. The backside safety is focusing on that to the exclusion of the boundary side X, the backside X receiver. I think the next time the Ravens play the Bengals, we're going to see a lot of targets to that backside X because you've got all eyes by Hamilton, in this case, to the trip side. He's looking for 3 to his side. He's looking to help to the trip side, which means up top you've got Rock Ya-Sin, in this case, manned up on Higgins. Higgins does end up getting some separation, kind of just slaps him away. Ball would be complete to Boyd, I think, if it weren't knocked down by Urban's helmet. Creates a 2nd and 10. I think you've got a man everywhere he goes call on 1 to both sides. You get a defensive pass interference on Stevens. This is what I'm talking about. It's a quick release by Burrow. You can't get to him here. Not enough of this from a Bengals perspective. Him throwing up the sideline quickly. Some people say, oh, he's just throwing it up. This is strategic, throwing it to the back shoulder. In this case, Stevens isn't able to do anything with the ball. Chase is already turning around. Stevens too late, got his hands on him. I think that's an illustration, though, of the type of coverages the Ravens are playing a lot of times, which is man on 1 and then some type of read on 2 by the apex defender and the safety to that side. And so Burrow, I think, at times has got to attack that from the bottom of the numbers down, especially when you've got a matchup like Jamar Chase against Brandon Stevens or T. Higgins against Ronald Darby. And I'm glad we got both of those guys as a Ravens fan, but you'd have to admit that talent-wise, that's in their favor. Okay, something they took too long to get to, these same side runs. They did use them in 2022 in Baltimore in Week 5. However, the Ravens played it a little differently than you see on this particular play. Clowney, I think, is being a little impatient here. You know, maybe it's selfish, whatever. He's diving inside the C-gap, which you can do. I've actually advocated for something like that, but not until you've been engaged with the base block. What that allows the boundary side safety to do is come downhill, fit inside the C-gap, or if the running back bounces it, to fit outside the C-gap. Oftentimes what you'll get is the boundary side receiver going and closing off the boundary side safety, making the boundary corner make the tackle. And in this case, you'll see as this develops, Stevens kind of chases T. Higgins, gets himself out of position. That's exactly what was going to happen. Higgins was going to block the boundary side safety. So you're in a little bit of a bind there. 11 personnel with the tight end and the running back into the boundary. Let me show you one more time. Not the play. But once they switch it to same side, A-gun, what I call A-gun. Some people call it king, some whatever. But now you're in a bind in terms of numbers-wise. That's why they've got Clowney into the C-gap. Another thing, I think Queen gets kind of caught up here to the inside. Instead of being able to redirect to the outside, they just give up the edge way too soft, and Mixon's too good to do that. 14-yard gain. Way too easy. Again, we're talking about third possession after the Ravens have had a lot of success in the first half. This is going to be a 2nd and 8. Going to be a completion down here to Higgins into the boundary. I think a 6-yard gain. Again, quick stuff outside the numbers to the boundary, though. We're a lot of throws to the boundary. You're seeing them here. Probably not enough to the split ends, to the X receivers down the field, like the DPI that you saw Chase draw against Stevens. Burrow makes quick decisions, and I think the Ravens system they've built against the Bengals kind of uses that against him because other things are occasionally developing after I shouldn't say after. As he's releasing the football, other things are developing and possibly would be there if he would move to the next thing in the progression. This is one of the few throws in that area that I talked about, going to be between the top of the numbers and the hash to the field because the ball's on the left hash. So this is the boundary side down here. This is the field side, the wide side, where presumably you would almost always get the nickel defender. And for whatever reason, this is one of the few throws that I've seen Burrow make between the top of the numbers and the hash to the field side. You can't say to the right, to the left. It's to the field side. So I don't know, what kind of charts are out there that track that. Also, you're getting 3 under. Hamilton is too heavy on this, not letting it release to the inside linebacker. Opens up the space for Higgins. Simultaneously, Ardarius Washington falls down. Easy completion, easy first down again on the third possession. Culminating with this 3rd and 5, up at the top, you've got Rock Ya-Sin against Jamar Chase. I thought Rock Ya-Sin played really solid cover corner on Sunday. Gets his hands in there, helps rip it out, kind of, slam or push Jamar Chase to the turf. I didn't think Chase looked as interested in dominating this game. I have no doubt the next time we see them, he will be ready to go. Because a guy like that, as talented as he is, with as much pride as he has and the Bengals has, for only having 3 catches and I think like 31 yards or 35 yards, that's disappointing from someone with so much talent. You can see this from the end zone angle, same play. You kind of lose Rock Ya-Sin and Chase here, to be honest with you. You don't really see them at the end, but you can see clearly that it's to the boundary. Let it run again. The left side of the screen is the short side of the field. A lot of throws to the boundary. This is quick. Back shoulder stuff, back shoulder fade out, whatever you want to call it. Rock Ya-Sin with a nice play to force a field goal. I think they were able to tie it at 10 there. 4th possession, that's the field goal. 4th possession, which is the first of the third quarter. Only going to show 2 plays, to be honest with you here. Again, you're going to see ball on the hash, boundary side here, and there's Clowney. Clowney's going to drop out. Super job by Burrow to leap over top of Matabike. The Ravens are bringing nickel pressure, dropping Clowney to the boundary. I think Clowney gets a little bit too deep in his drop. Burrow's able to hop over the top of Matabike. I'll give you the end zone angle in a moment, and I'll pause it so you can see Clowney's probably getting a little bit too deep. Stevens did a nice job down here at times during the game, to be honest with you. He's competing. I almost wonder if sometimes during the preseason they were working on his man defense because they felt like he was good at the quarter split field stuff. End zone angle, same play. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show it to you. All right, this is the interception by Geno Stone. And again, you're talking about 3 receivers to one side, and the backside safety is going to be heavy reacting to that side. Now, also, too, I think he's reacting to Burrow's eyes. Burrow initially looked at him, maybe to hold him for a second, and then looked immediately to the trip side. I wonder if Burrow looked at Stone and stayed to that side, if Stone would have stayed to that side, meaning he wouldn't have hedged to this side of the field as quickly. That's not exactly the angle that he moved at. He wouldn't have hedged to that side as quickly if Burrow was looking directly at him. From the end zone angle, I don't think I give it to you. You see Burrow first look to that side and then look away. If he stayed on it, it's easy to say that, yeah, Jamar Chase has gotten open against Brandon Stevens, but Stone would have presumably reacted to Joe Burrow's eyes and throwing the football in a manner to help out Jamar Chase. I'm interested the next time the Ravens play the Bengals to see how often you do stuff like this and then come back to the other side. Get us moving, because Hamilton and Stone, both of them, when they were the backside safety, are playing 3 strong, almost exclusively. Like I said, part of that is due to their eyes, but I thought it was a brilliant job by the Ravens again to mix up coverages on Burrow, kind of limit the air, take away certain areas of the field, maybe, but maybe he's hesitant to try to go to those areas for whatever reason. I feel like Burrow doesn't want to be in 2nd and 10 against our defense, and so he'll take the shorter stuff as opposed to waiting a little bit longer to throw and maybe getting a sack or getting pressure. His ankle injury clearly played a role, if you ask me. Unfortunately for him and Bengals fans, it seems like he may have re-aggravated it late in the game, ironically on a touchdown pass. You guys let me know what you think of the video. I think the coverages I showed, I tried to make them in line or consistent with the same types of things we saw last year in 2022 when the Ravens held Burrow to, I think about 64-65% completion percentage, but only about 220 yards per game. Actually, a little less than that now after 4 games. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comments section. If you think other Ravens fans or football fans in general would enjoy this film study breakdown, look at how the Ravens defended and slowed down Joe Burrow and the Bengals, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.